more people are here.
Great art is a work of nature. The artist is only to select it, finding inherent mystery and beauty in the uncarved block. That finding is a work of art. Cheap guitars, primitive beats, and bathroom reverb. The profoundly out of whack. Objet trouvé. Jimmy Brad Ray takes seriously what the gods meant for fun. Jamison B. Rad, the Pied Piper of Southeastern Garage Rock. Dive bar residents from New York City to Atlanta to Austin, Texas, know Jimmy Brad as the world's friendliest and clumsiest frontman, the face of Jimmy and the Teasers. To North Carolinians, he and his bands were ubiquitous darlings of Sleazefest and the heavy rebel 4th of July weekender. Closer to home, for me though, he's the caretaker of Teaser Ranch, a rest stop and recording house for the exotic and the grotesque. Today, Jimmy Brad gives us a bird's eye look at North Carolina's ridiculously fertile rock scene. So, man, for the 2 or 3 other people here, listen, who the hell are you? What's your real name? And what's your real name?
My real name? All of these names are my real name. I even have one more. My name is technically James Bradley Ray. And for the first part of my life, I know you had a similar situation with Morgan and Chris. For much of my life, I was Brad. But when we formed the Teasers, Brad and the Teasers sounds like a band that plays in their pajamas. So my first name being James, my father had a way with nicknames, and once or twice he'd call me Jimmy, and I thought that would work, and it kind of stuck. You know, it wasn't just stage name. It's kind of everyone would prefer to say Jimmy rather than Brad, apparently. Mm-hmm. James Ray, might not be the most cool name in 1969, if you think about what was going on in the world.
That's messed up.
Yeah, I agree. We felt like Jimmy was a better choice for the band because
So what you're talking about is Jimmy and the Teasers.
Yes, exactly. Brad and the Teasers was just not going to fly.
Was Jimmy and the Teasers, for people outside of North Carolina who don't know, we had the same kind of circuit in the American Deep South. And before I even knew you, I would hear of Jimmy and the Teasers because it was kind of an infamous band.
You definitely knew the first incarnation of Jimmy and the Teasers with Holly, and we played with you guys. I think you were the first people to take us to Savannah, is what I remember.
Between 0 and 10, a Jimmy and the Teasers show that you would call like a 7.5. What does that show look like?
A 7.5. I'm not going to get hurt too badly. I'll probably only maybe fall maybe twice. I'll always be swinging for the fence, and I guarantee you that Valerie, the drummer, was always swinging for the fence.
Yeah, and she had like tassels on her kick drum, and they dressed like cheerleaders. Seeing you with them up there was like, this is kind of amazing. If it had been some kind of Evan Dando character up there, it'd be just like, okay, this is creepy.
Yeah, I'd gotten to the point where I wanted to do something to put a smile on people's faces and something easy to access. That kind of going nuts on stage has always kind of been a thing that I like that release a whole lot. But the concept of what we look like and how we're going to present this and the artwork that goes with it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost to the point of a pop art experiment. All of that goes to her. It was the music we were listening to at the time. And if you think about, the Las Vegas Grind type compilations, Sleazefest going on in Chapel Hill, and this kind of garage rock mixed with a go-go cage. This sort of thing is what we were into, and with a little blend of surf music into it. And these were the sorts of things that we were doing, and this was the idea she came up with.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me that to have a truly great band, each person kind of brings something to the table, chemistry-wise.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But people don't always think of like, well, if you're invested in this cooperative, what else do you do? You know what I mean? Just like, someone else might be good at making posters, or it's like when you're thinking about different people to play with, like if you're just at the beginning of putting together a band and you have the luxury of being able to choose between different people, one of those ways that could set somebody apart or that could set you apart if you're looking to join a band is like, what else do you do? You make t-shirts? Are you good at editing, whatever?
We grabbed this idea and we ran with it, and it really worked for a while, man. And hey, damn, what a lot of fun,
Well, I think people, it's infectious for one, and people recognize when you mean what you're saying. Like, you took having a good time very seriously.
I had a friend once say, well, there's bands out there with a shake, but that's not really who they are. But your songs are like hanging out with you for a night, and it's, maybe.
There's nothing like a great collaboration. A really good collaboration, you're greater than the sum of your parts. Making it work on a practical level. I have been talking to a few people who were lucky enough not to have to drive back and forth to gigs, but for the most part, we've all at least had to do it at one point and like deal with how do you get there? How do you get back? Where is back? Where is there? And how long do you have to be there? And what do you do in between load in and load out?
Yeah.
Besides play music. So how did you navigate that world, and how are you still breathing?
I get that question a lot. In fact, I have had a few incredulous bartenders when I walk in a bar after 5 years saying that they were pretty sure I was dead. Just everybody had their job. Everyone, for a person that kept a full-time job, for so long, we were out there a lot. We did a lot of Thursday through Sundays, like a lot of them. Especially, I couldn't tell you exactly what year, but I want to say around 2003 or 2004. It was, if we had a day off on a weekend in 2 months, that was a big deal because we were so busy. So yeah, daytime drives. That's me and Valerie, and the long range ones and stuff. But Charity would refrain from entertaining her drinking. If Charity was not a huge drinker, but she'd like to have a few, but she'd wait till we got where we're going after the show so that so that we were safe. And she always said she was amazed at what Valerie and I could accomplish completely blind, including loading up all the gear and getting paid. But I'd say about 90% of the time that worked out pretty well. But like I say, everyone had their job. When the show's over, we prided ourselves on getting out of the way of the next band, getting the stuff, loaded and things like that. Well, Charity would go and sell merch, and Val and I would load up. It became over time a kind of a machine, really.
Yeah, we're talking about Charity Quick, who's one of the smartest, most down the earth, talented, competent people I think I've ever met.
Yeah. And when Charity started playing with us, she was a novice. The songs were very simple to play, and she worked at it hard, and she was able to hang right in there. And Charity plays with multiple different bands around Chapel Hill now. Snatches of Pink was one of them. Which is a legendary band.
And Snatches of Pink features one John Howie on the inaugural episode.
Yeah.
I wish more people were here. Right? He plays drums with them, right?
Yeah. When they get together, which is it's a now and then thing, but when they do, they played at the Dexter Rom River tribute, and they were sensational. And like I say, that's one of Charity's gigs now. So, but yes, I can't stress how important that lineup of Jimmy and Teasers that each individual member was.
I can't imagine having all of that on my shoulders to where the rest of them basically are along for the ride and just.
Oh, no.
To where you do your job on stage and the rest is, just tell me when and where.
Yeah. I probably am more fortunate that the two of them didn't kill me at some point for some ghastly disappearance after a show or something like that. Other people might have left me, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I also think long term, because to share the load over that amount of time means you can do it longer too. If you try to do this all yourself, like you just have a vision and you're just going to pay everybody a flat fee, and then I'm going to do it all. I'm going to drive. I'm going to make sure everything happens. I've done that before, and it's kind of you get burnt out pretty quick.
I would get burnt out insanely quick, and that also you talk about our dedication to having fun. That sounds like a lot less fun.
Well, now here's something. What if you had the choice between it's not as much fun, but the shows are bigger and you make more money? Like you can play this show, but you have to sign a contract to where no alcohol the day of the show or till after.
I would. No one would want to see that. I don't think anybody would ask me to do that.
Because there is kind of a Dean Martin kind of aspect to what you're doing.
Absolutely. And there's a difference in, you can remember coming back to my place after shows and stuff, and maybe it's me and you and maybe Josh Johnson, Pinche Gringo, or some, but my point here is all three of us are doing different things. The three of us all have a different drive behind what we're doing, and we all appreciate each other, but our probably influences and what brought us to do this are all very different. Do you see what I'm saying? Is some people are just more artists, and I am more of an entertainer, and I know that. But that doesn't mean that I want to. One of the things that happened, one of the things that was kind of as things started to trail off, is when we did start to play better, and maybe I thought play more interesting songs, and I didn't want to fall off a chair. I would get heckled, believe it or not. What's this? You hurt yourself, You might think you might think I'm joking, but we really kind of painted ourselves in a corner there.
Yeah, the whole Pete Townshend thing. Just
yeah. And I mean, to the point that I had people like tie my shoes together, like while I was playing, like I wasn't looking down, or yank a chair out from under me. The people started to get like maybe a little bit too into it, like y'all back up. Yeah. You want this kind of sustained chaos, and sometimes sometimes it gets out of hand. The whole beer can throwing thing and beer spraying, which came from a whole group of us. If you remember the Pits and the Hillbilly Werewolf, and a lot of those Virginia bands and Pennsylvania, New York, and all that starts to get, the crowd sees us throw beer, they throw beer, and a lot more beer, and as time builds up, it gets more and more intense to the point that it got a little silly. Let's say you play the drums with a beer can tossed at you. The beer flying through the air was kind of another part of the look. But by the time Heavy Rebel rolls around in Winston-Salem, Dave Quick's festival, I'm sure will be mentioned more than once on your podcast, it becomes kind of applause from the crowd. You guys are, the equivalent to spitting in the punk movement in Britain. They're approving of you. They're throwing beer at you, and it really caught some people by surprise. Those are big crowds, and that's a lot of beer coming at you.
Let's talk about Heavy Rebel for a second. It hasn't come up yet. Were you with it from the beginning?
Yeah. Dave and Charity were already married, so we did the very first one. Whatever year that was, 2001, something like that. I remember a pretty long drive back to get here, and back then Winston-Salem was kind of deserted. But Dave Quick was partnered with Mike Martin back then, and Mike was a classic car guy, which was kind of also a part of this scene. Car shows kind of went along with kind of that rockabilly garage surf thing, and so they put on this car show, and this gigantic building downtown, which you spent plenty of time at, called the Millennium Center. which used to be like the post office and jailhouse and all this stuff. And so they were able to put 3 stages inside this building and have bands just going for 3 days. This is a weekender, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So that's a lot of bands. And it got big within just the first few years. And originally it wasn't air conditioned. And so I think that led to, more beer spraying, talking about that. But yeah, that was the big yearly event. And it became such a big deal. It really became like a family reunion for bands. I would say I look forward to getting to see every band that I, from Florida to New York out to Oklahoma, I get to see everybody in one place once a year. And got pretty large there for a while. It was very successful.
And it was pretty outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of towns, most cities have a rockabilly scene of some kind, and they're usually pretty predictable. But Heavy Rebel was truly like outrageous and kind of unhinged in the way that indeed Jimmy and the Teasers were, in that it was taking fun really seriously. It was controlled chaos. 1 billion bands, most people staying in 1 or 2 hotels within walking distance of the place. It's ungodly hot. It's the 4th of July in Winston-Salem, in the Piedmont, lots of concrete. And they would have these like burnout contests where there's like hundreds of people, whole families sitting there right next to a car. There's just like burning rubber right there. It's like, this is so close to being such a colossal disaster. And it was, and we were talking about who set it up with Mike Martin. Dave Quick, that was kind of his brainchild.
Yeah, and I had met Dave first. Dave was a North Carolina guy that lived in New York and was in a fantastic band called Jack Black, and they had came through Chapel Hill. We used to go to the local 506 in Chapel Hill, Dave Robertson's club. We'd go every weekend before Jimmy and Teasers really got going. We would go every weekend. We didn't even look who was playing because Dave Robertson always booked really good bands, and so I had met Dave Quick. But I think Charity, being part of the organization of Heavy Rebel, led to some of that, like the Pits and Hillbilly Werewolf and Billy Joe Winghead and these bands that weren't rockabilly bands, these really kind of off the wall, costume. Here's a guy in a full werewolf costume screaming at you, playing Jerry Lee Lewis. That made it different,
Yeah. It was a psychedelic. I mean, it was a draining experience. There was so much going on. I got to where I think I only lasted 3 days, maybe once. This is like, it was exhausting. There's so much going on.
Oh yeah, and gosh, we used to do that and then go up the East Coast with Winghead or the Pits for a week after that. And just come home like, somebody's going to get the flu here at some point. So little sleep.
Billy Joe, the flu, and we'll call it. Billy Joe Winghead. If we could just say it, I mean, they opened my eyes. They played a version of Freebird, but instead of slide guitar, it's a theremin.
Yeah,
with a hammer and sickle on the front.
I think that they were very aware. That they were trying to poke fun at that, and with the theremin being a Russian instrument, John just thought it was apropos to have a cross and sickle on the front of it, and that's the way he thought.
What was his quote about? I refuse
to live in a world without context.
I refuse to live in a world without context. Yeah, I remember the first time I heard that. I've taken that with me every day since.
Me too, man. But yeah, all these bands that we had met out on the road, Truckadelic, other really good bands, but also bands that had a tongue-in-cheek humor to them. I think led to, wow, what am I going to see next at this? Because Charity managed to pull all those bands in, and Dave's pulling in people that are submitting to him and wanting to play. And the mix led to just a lot of chaos. And just
I always wondered, and we don't have to get Well, I always wondered if there was a parallel universe Heavy Rebel where it wasn't so much fun for everybody. That kind of that it kind of looked alike, but these rebel flags are for real,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and this isn't funny, and it's not ironic or cynical or heritage not hate. I mean, it's like there's none of that.
Yeah.
And touring around the South, I've seen it change for the better.
Yes.
But you do have to learn to talk to different kind of people in rural areas. That, and not just talk to them and tolerate folks, but actually get to be friends with people who, there's a lot of things you believe I kind of find abhorrent, but the human being in you, I love.
Yeah.
And you have to figure out how to navigate that kind of jungle.
But I think growing up where we have grown up, that's, you start learning that with your family, probably.
Immediately.
When you start to learn who you are and what you think, and you're going to find an uncle or something as close as your father or a grandfather that is old school, and you love them, but you're going to disagree with them about this, and that they're not going to understand where you're coming from. But I think everyone that picks up a guitar,
and it breaks my
is going to have a thing with their father not knowing where they're coming from. So you're already starting.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. And I would notice with us, being from the part of North Carolina we're from, and my accent, for lack of a better term, and certainly Valerie and Charity's, we would put people at ease, maybe, just through the familiar accent. You know what I'm saying? And
without code switching, you're just like, this is how I talk.
Yeah, this is how I talk. Yeah, I'd be code switching like hell in New Jersey. But
right. Because it goes the other way. It's just like people just assume you're an idiot.
Yeah, you stop and ask directions, and the first thing you ask is, "Where the hell are you from?" But it's interesting. And then when you're in a band with women, attractive women, and you kind of mobbed by some inappropriate stuff sometimes, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, except for you meet all kinds. If you do this long enough, you're going to meet all kinds of people, and it's good to be able to deal with whatever comes up.
And trying to be diplomatic until avoiding confrontation.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is not necessarily deal with it the way that sounded like I said, but diffuse it.
Right.
And fortunately, I'm not taken very seriously, and I can usually make a joke and maybe get a situation under control. We both been around. I think maybe I've gone off track here, but I think you know what I'm talking about. A lot of weird experiences late night. Yeah.
Well, and we're talking about 99% of the time it's in a place where you're probably never going to see this person again, and so it's like, I just want to get out of this bar. I'm not trying to have a debate with you, which is probably going to end up in a fight. I'd rather just be like, oh yeah, that's some opinion you got there.
Yeah. Well, and I guess in the end, anybody would rather fight me than Valerie. But there wasn't too much of that stuff. I think with us it was more the girls being hit on or guys being really inappropriate, and having to step out of those situations as gracefully as possible. Sure. I'm not acting like that happened all the time, but you're not discussing situations you can get in.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really even think of too many times where I've had any trouble that wasn't self-inflicted, like car trouble or just being late.
I can remember changing a tire with Jamie, your drummer in the Merle.
Jamie Sterling,
in a alleyway in Savannah, and we're both laying under your van and trying to get it up high enough. You guys had a pretty large van then, and we did not realize that the puddle of water we were laying in was actually a puddle of urine. And and fortunately, I had a spare T-shirt, but I think Jamie had left for the weekend with maybe one. He was not a happy camper. You get the tire changed.
Oh man, yeah, that's Jamie Sterling and I had a band called the Merle, kind of a butthole surfers thing. But yeah, that all our trips to Savannah were always pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think you and I could probably do an hour about just Savannah and the surrealness of that town at that time. And again, thank you for showing us. I mean, man, you took us down there and we crashed at somebody's apartment. And I wake up the next morning and have a green hot dog and a green beer at 10 o'clock in the morning because I didn't know about St. Patrick's Day down there. And it was such a huge event in the town, this huge parade and all these things. And I think you guys didn't tell us about it intentionally because you wanted us to kind of see what it was like. But I fell in love with that town, even though I got lost for like 3 hours trying to walk around there one day.
Yeah, it's the Velvet Elvis.
Yeah, we played, and there was an outdoor venue that we also played with you guys down the street where we played out in front of the building. I can't remember the name of that place, but it was on the same street on Congress Street. And we continued
like a pool hall or something.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It was a pool hall. Yeah.
Talk about a place that takes their fun seriously.
Yeah, that place was wow. And we continued to play there.
Savannah in general. Savannah at St. Patrick's Day is off the hook.
Oh yeah. There's cups stacked up by the door. If you need to leave before you're done with your drink, just take it with you. No problem. And you can. Gosh, that's what I think it's the second largest St. Patrick's Day parade next to Boston. And yeah, the drinking starts early. But I mean, some of the greatest shows, not just St. Patrick's Day, but just that town. That town. Yeah, you're saying it takes their fun seriously. They really took to us.
So how have you seen? You've seen the North Carolina rock and roll scene. It's at street level in general for a few transitions now, I would imagine. And when I say the North Carolina scene. Being over in Western North Carolina, we always felt like North Carolina was really kind of 2, maybe even 3 regions. We didn't feel much of a connection to the Chapel Hill scene, which obviously got all the national attention. But there's also Wilmington, which had its own kind of thing, and the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill always kind of dominated the conversation as if that is the North Carolina scene. So I can't speak for Wilmington, but in the mountains, we always had kind of a chip on our shoulder about we're just as North Carolina as y'all are. We're just as historically we're hillbillies, so we're kind of like disconnected as well.
Well, I'll tell you.
And I remember people coming to Asheville and just being kind of bewildered.
I'll tell you,
and by my band specifically.
Oh, good gosh! Well, the Merle was bewildering anywhere. I mean, what a powerful just attack of just not what you're expecting. But it goes. I'll tell you how deep that is. We were based in Graham, North Carolina, a half hour from Chapel Hill, and when we first started playing in Chapel Hill, people would say, "I can't believe you're from Graham." It's just right down the road.
It's a suburb.
Yeah, a huge rivalry between the Raleigh bands and the Chapel Hill bands, and the Raleigh bands felt like they were heavier and more punk, and the Chapel Hill bands were more artsy and more maybe jangly, REM, that type of stuff. It is all over the place, and the Wilmington guys, man, those dudes just thought. They lived in a port city and thought they were pirates. I just saw some of the craziest stuff down there. I was open to all of it and just loved traveling around and meeting people and hearing bands. But you are absolutely right. There was a time where that was a very competitive, which is always weird with me. But yeah, a very competitive scene And people had a thing about it. Oh, well, you go to Chapel Hill and people dance. You go to Raleigh and they cross your arms and watch you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You hear a lot of
Which
things.
is that's funny from our perspective. Is the entire triangle was they're going to stand in the back and cross their arms if they show up at all. The East Coast was just incredibly rowdy and aggressive, whereas the West and the mountains felt almost kind of like a San Francisco vibe.
It definitely did. And that's the way I thought of it. Almost like a jam band type hippie tie-dye type thing, for lack of a better term, until I met you, brother.
Well, I remember the first time thinking about it because it never really crossed my mind. It's like I don't give a shit about the triangle. What do I care? Or Wilmington. I play here, and until we started playing out more, it's like, okay, there's kind of a thing. This is like three different spots, and someone brought it up. It's like, I come to Asheville, I don't know if someone's going to be like juggling fire on a unicycle, or if it's
well, yeah.
It's like they're not just a whole lot of just like straight rock and roll.
Yeah, and we're leaving out Charlotte right now, which was
that's kind of a not. It's neither.
Yeah, but look at the bands that came through the milestone during the time we're talking about. So I guess everybody to a certain extent was doing their own thing. I think a lot of that stuff, this is just kind of my memory, is after the Seattle thing, you kept hearing, oh, Chapel Hill's going to be the next big thing. But, people around Chapel Hill are going, well, there's not, Dexter Romweber doesn't sound like Pipe, and they don't sound like Southern Cultural Skids, and blah, blah.
Yeah.
There's all these different, there's not a Chapel Hill sound, so to speak. And I think if you really start looking, that's true of everywhere that you and I are talking about. Because I didn't expect to see a band like the Merle when I went to Asheville, and I got my ass handed to me. So,
well, it helped that we weren't ambitious.
Yeah,
and kind of like, and we're kind of arrogant and looked down our noses at most just things in general. So we didn't really look to anybody else beyond just whatever our record collection, so it wasn't,
sure.
There was no, and being in Asheville, there wasn't any competition. So it's like a petri dish of just like, let's see where this organism goes.
Right. Yeah, I've had close friends before say things like, man, you just kicked our ass in our own town and things like that. And I'm like, wow, man, I thought it was just a great show. I didn't know we were up against each other here.
Right. That really goes against the grain of everything I love about music and art, is that it's not sports. Nobody wins.
I mean, trust me, I hesitate to call what I do art, and I have gained sports injuries from my performances, but I like you just said, I didn't want to do that. I played football as a kid until somebody stepped on my hand and I couldn't play guitar for 2 weeks, and that was it. So I had clearly chosen, what direction.
That's a crossroads.
Yeah, that was right there, sitting in the emergency room going, that's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
That always kind of bothered me. I'm not going to say I ever brought it up to anybody or caused us to think about it, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Unless the other band pissed me off,
Yeah, you could chalk it up to, well, he's from the Piedmont.
Yeah.
Bless his heart.
Yeah. Jimmy got a lot of bless his hearts, I'm sure.
He's sickly. So how much do you get out and play these days?
I haven't played. I haven't done anything continuously since the pandemic. Just Jessica Curvin and my girlfriend, Jesse had a band called Codeine Hayes, and I was playing drums, and we were playing pretty consistently, locally in North Carolina, right up to the pandemic. In fact, we walked off stage one night, and the guys, we were at a bar in Greensboro called the Flatiron, and they said, we're done. Yeah, we're closing doors tomorrow. So we played right up to the pandemic. And then, life and a lot of things. And so since then, I've like, our good friend, Tony Denowith, who we called Tigerbeat, passed away suddenly. And so I've gone down to Atlanta that was several years ago. But there's a foundation called the Tigerbeat UpBeat. That's the name of it.
Mhm.
That it's a foundation for musicians in need in Atlanta, like for dental work, or if your guitar gets stolen or your van breaks down. And so, bottom line is, I've gone down and done a few benefits for that, like put a band together and do some covers and a few of our songs and a few of the old songs of the bands that Tony played in. So just spotty things here and there, but I haven't done anything consistently, which I'm kind of ashamed to admit. I really should be doing something. And
if you don't, I'm sorry, but if you don't mind, after, can you send me a link to the benefit, and I'll make sure it gets put up in the show notes and everything if anyone's interested.
Sure. UpBeat is in August, so yeah, but I will send it right to you.
Okay.
But I kind of, how do I put this? It's hard to find that chemistry when I've had it so good. It's hard to just start something new, which I'd like to do, but my expectations are going to be high. You know what I mean? As far as the people I play with, and I'm going to have to really buckle down and try to figure out how to do something. And I know, like, you do your own thing, and first of all, you love to record, and you put out amazing records, and you write amazing songs. I would be looking to put together a band to go on stage and do what I used to do to entertain. And I got to find a way to walk that line a little more. So it's something I think about a lot, but yeah, sadly I can't say I'm doing a whole lot. I really should be.
Well, I'd never liked singing an empty calendar myself, but I've had to appreciate the times when there's not a lot of physical action, and just let that be kind of a incubation period.
Yeah,
that I don't understand.
I regret that there was as little recorded output of the Teasers as there is, but man, it was just, that was always a difficult part of it for me, and maybe that's a patience thing or something. But
tell me about your house. It's not just a Focusrite on the kitchen table. You've got a lot going on over there. Teaser Ranch.
Well, the Teaser Ranch. Yeah, I moved out here in like 1997, I think, and I've been renting this ever since. It's in the middle of a cattle farm, so there's 80 acres around us. So if Jason Krekel wants to play at 1:00 in the morning, by God, let's go. And there's multiple ways to record here. We have switched over to mostly computer recording, but you can set up upstairs in the band room and mic everything and run it downstairs and record live. Or you can do what we do, and what Jessie likes to do is her to play to me, and I can record a drum track, and then she takes that drum track and just lays everything over the top of it in the privacy of her headphones. But there's multiple ways. I've got several different setups here. I used to be able to go to tape, and that got used quite a bit. But that stuff requires a lot of maintenance that I unfortunately was not able to continue doing. But this house was set up for rock and roll.
But it's not exactly, as far as recording goes, distraction free.
No, not at all. Not at all. That's been an issue before. There's no telling what might be going on in the other room, or
can you describe the place physically,
or in the bathroom? You come into a living room, and I'm a collector. I love old things, thrift stores and stuff. So basically, there's stuff everywhere. But I've also spent all my life gathering musical equipment, and amplifiers, guitars, drum sets, you name it. And so you go upstairs and there's gear everywhere, and that used to really be a cool part of recording is, well, let's try this guitar. Well, let's try this amp, that sort of thing. And the Jimmy and Teasers Fabulously Trashy was actually recorded here with a kind of a pro producer type guy that used to work for Hellcat Records. And he was a friend from Greensburg, and he came out and set up some of his gear like we were just talking about. But there you say that, there was probably 20 people running around the house while we were making that record. And fireworks going off in the yard and that sort of thing. It's kind of a circus around here, although it's not quite as crazy as it used to be.
There's an infamous place and a welcome kind of home away from home. Chapel Hill always seemed closer in my mind than it was in real life.
It's an hour, and everybody would realize that about 45 minutes into the drive home. Into the drive back after the show, that this was just a little bit further than we felt like we should go. But
no, I mean from Asheville.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can't.
Sure, we could drive 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I wish I had kept count of how many bands had stayed here.
It would have been cool to have a guest book. We stayed with someone in I think it was Manchester, and she had a place where bands just knew to come there. And she's just a fan. She'd do it for tickets, and she was just really nice. And she had a guest book, and you just like look through it. Do you have anything like that? Like did any
there's a
graffiti or
a small bit? People started. It became a thing for. This might surprise you, but I'm a bit of a late sleeper, and instead of waking us up, they would leave a note. So we have this book of notes from like Lance or, Deadly Lo-Fi or different bands that needed to get on the road before I came out of the bedroom. And they would just leave nice letters or thank yous or, go to hells or whatever it was. And we started putting them into a book. So there's a handful of those, but unfortunately I wish I'd have thought of that earlier. So, but gosh,
that's cool though. You got any?
Yeah, I mean, look at Rocket 350 after Heavy Rebel one time. The transmission fell out of their van. Those guys were here for a week, and that's happened multiple times. Or people come here for a few days to record a couple things. I kind of miss some of it, but some of it was a lot. Looking back, it didn't seem so weird then, But.
Yeah, my buddies out in Portland at the Deer Lodge. It's not exactly the same situation, but it's the same kind of. They have a sign that says "My home is your honky tonk."
There you go. Yeah, we have the ranch, Sweet Ranch.
Right. It's just when it's kind of an open door policy. I'm sure sometimes.
Yeah. There's been a few impromptu shows out back. You got
to kick people out eventually.
Yeah. That's what they tell me. Yeah. I think the pandemic once again. You get used to there not being people coming by every weekend, and in fact, there for a short amount of time, we didn't really have a guest bed. It was floor space or mattress space because it just there was no one here. I've got some cats that for a while didn't know there was anybody in the world but me and Jessica. Because just nobody. You remember during that period of what was that, a year or two? It's just like, you're not supposed to go out. You're not supposed to go hang out with your friends, that kind of thing. And it kind of just kind of stayed that way. And I think we also got used to maybe a little more peace and quiet during that time. But
the trash hats, man, that was almost, if not, I loved the trash hats. They were as good as Jimmy and the Teasers, I think.
Nick wrote some great songs, and we took. With me on drums, you can't take things too seriously, but we also took having a good time pretty seriously too. That band was a whole lot of fun. It was it wasn't like Jimmy and Teasers where it was like this organization trying to get out there and do everything we could. We just had a good time. This is fun, and people always thought, that maybe there was some sort of funny headgear or something. But actually, when we first started doing it, I was using like a pair of old German hi-hats, like these really like paper thin things. And that was like, well, what the hell was going on back there? I was like, man, this is my trash hats, and this is where the name came from. Well, that band was a whole lot of fun. And I really, again, Nicholas is a great songwriter. Those were some of those were some really good songs, with maybe some questionable lyrics at this point. But anyway, he's moved up there, and he's doing I think he has a band called the Hainted Blue now.
So watching Chapel Hill evolve, who are some of the unsung heroes you'd say who have really made the scene as rich as it is?
Well, for me, I started going over
besides
there.
Yourself, of course.
Well, I'm definitely part of a later wave, but when I first started going over there and seeing bands like Dexter Romweber, of course, the Flat Duo-Jets at the time, over to Raleigh, bands like the Connells, and the Bad Checks, just a great trashy kind of punk rock band out of Raleigh. And it just really struck you that you knew this wasn't normal for there to be, Snatches of Pink and just the DBs and I could sit here and keep.
All right, Michael Rank.
Yep, Michael Rank. I think the world of Mike Rank. There were bands like that you've never heard of, called like Teasing the Korean, and a band called Satellite Boyfriend. Their singer was my substitute teacher at high school, and he let my band open for his band. There was just a community of bands. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Pipe, who's a massive influence on me.
Who is that?
A band called Pipe out of Chapel Hill. Ron Liberty and Chuck Garrison, who was in Superchunk. Oh gosh, and all these bands are very interpollinated. Different guys would move from one band to the other. But basically what I want to say is, if you went over there every weekend, you were going to find something you liked. Yeah, and you were going to hear something different. And there was just something going on all the time. And this is when I was very young, and it just kept going. And it's still to this day. It's a little different, but it should be. Right. You got a street where you can walk. Back then, the Cave and the Cradle and the 506 and other places. The record store might have a show. There might be a band playing outside downtown. It's just music everywhere, and good record stores. Back then we bought records maybe based on the cover, or maybe we heard Peter Buck, from REM say that this was a great band, and you go buy their record, and it was just an experience, man. And it still kind of stands the hairs up on my arm to think about those days and what a different world it seemed like.
And for any great scene, it takes infrastructure. It's not just great music. I know right. Asheville kind of suffered from that, I thought, because we had like a billion great bands, but you guys also had really good record stores, and you had school kids and people who put people together, like Dave Robertson, like that. Yep. Nothing would have happened. And we're talking about like recent history, for all it's worth, we're since the 80s, right? But people like Dave Robertson and like Fred Blurt, who are the infrastructure of scenes.
There would never be enough I could say about Dave Robertson for, number one, what he did for my band and just took a chance on me and continued to take a chance on us in putting us with nationals and letting us open for people and letting us meet people that he knew more people were going to see us and that it was going to help us. And the other thing I would would have to say about Dave Robertson is the bands he turned me on to just by booking them. If Dave Robertson booked it, you go down there Saturday night, you're going to see kick-ass music. Do you like kick-ass music? Yes. Well, then go to the local 506 on Friday and Saturday nights, and Dave Robertson's going to have a good band. And so, like I say, and I've told Dave this probably to the point of annoying him. That he was a big deal to me later in my 20s when I started hanging out there in my mid 20s.
Yeah,
but
he was a big deal to me. Getting back, how like there seemed to be a divide between the different areas of North Carolina. The Kings being obviously Chapel Hill specifically of the Triangle. So like to have him like my band, that was a huge point of pride for me. It's like I felt like we kind of broke through a little bit.
The same with me, and like within the first year,
like a connection was made to a larger community.
Absolutely. I don't know how many people I know. I couldn't even put my finger on how many people I know directly because of Dave Robertson. But he put us on Sleazefest within the first year of booking the band. That's massive, man. Even if you play at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a lot of people are going to see you. And for a band like mine, that was. And then you meet all these other bands, and I've had bands ask, well, how did you book all that stuff? Well, we made friends, and we went to their town, and they came back to our town, and it built a network. And I just, again, man, that was fun. It was fun. Even you might go to a town and the show be okay, but the time you spent with the other band and your friends, it would make it worth it. There might be times that I remember stories from somebody's house after the show that I don't even specifically remember the show. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that was just part of the community that we were in at that time.
Well, I think that's one of the things that does make playing music for drink tickets basically sustainable is the not to get too sincere, but the camaraderie and the fellowship of it all. I was just did an interview with Janet Beveridge Bean from 11th Dream Day and Freakwater, and her take was, it hasn't really been a slog for me. It's just like I love the people I'm hanging out with, and I look forward to doing it. And I thought that was refreshing. And it's like, that's what's sustained. There's more way to get paid than in
money. Yeah. And when it would be a slog is maybe when we kind of went out on an adventure like by ourselves, like when we weren't touring with another band we knew, or we weren't going to a town where we had some good friends. That might be a little more work than going somewhere where I knew I was going to see him. One of the guys from the Twin Six, or one of the guys from the Blind Ferris, or somebody I knew in that town I was going to get to hang out with, and they were going to show me around their town, and I knew I was going to have a good time. And maybe the show would absolutely, be sensational, or maybe it might be, okay, a few people, but that didn't matter. The next time you went back, maybe there'd be a few more. And it's also, how's a guy like me going to see the country? I've played in little towns that you wouldn't. I'm not going to book a vacation there, but there's great.
It's a good excuse to drain your bank account and go see the country.
Exactly. But there's you find a cool bar or another great band, and all these little towns, and that was just part of it to me. And I'm to our whole band. We always kind of prided ourselves on all the friends we had.
Yeah, this has come up before as well, that not having a plan B is a huge motivator to do a lot of this. Where a lot of us, it's a little absurd to think of like not doing it. So you kind of have to do it. It's like, well, one way or another, I got to make this happen. Whatever day job I can get. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're not. But I'm not going to not do this. So whatever.
And it's a bit of a thing with me that I sit around and think about is, I had a job, the same job the whole time I did this, and I had great bosses that worked with me and used sick days and vacation days and was able to keep a very busy schedule for a very long time. but I have many friends. I mean, many that would come home from tour and be homeless. They weren't sure where they were going to stay when they got back because they gave it their all. They really stuck their neck out there and went all in. And I guess I feel embarrassed, a little embarrassed that I never did that. But my band wasn't the kind of band that I felt like was going to uh, uh, take off in that certain way. But I felt like we were entertaining people and having a good time, and we wanted to be as big as we could. But I didn't think it was gonna support me. That would have been great if it could have. But yeah, I like I say, I've had many friends that are like, yeah, well, I finally quit because I got tired of not having anywhere to go when I came home from tour, or I needed to finally get a real job, and a place to stay, that sort of thing. And might sound weird, but I admire that. That's giving it your all. That's giving it everything you got.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a single-mindedness to it, and a whether it's conscious or not, but kind of a realization of life for what it is.
Yeah.
Something to be lived in the moment with your, with an awareness of how the past and the future are all affected by each other. What you're doing right now lays the groundwork for what you're going to do tomorrow.
Right.
Well, the romance goes a long way.
Yeah, it sure does, man. It sure does. I think that's the reason I can sit here and talk to you at length about things that happened 20, 30 years ago, because of I still feel like, and I'm still proud of being that guy with a band on tour. I always wanted to tour in a van, that was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, it seemed like the idea of success, my 12-year-old self is like, you succeeded long ago. And I would say it was like being in a band and touring in a van is absolutely success. Now who's in the person saying that sentence now, like that makes all the what is it? I refuse to live in a world without context.
Without context, yeah.
If you don't want to do that, obviously you have not succeeded.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you live for that,
the ladder.
And there's nothing wrong with the romance of it too. Is like that success doesn't have to be something that only comes in the form of glitter and photographs and something that you can physically share.
Yeah, and I don't even think, like I say, we never thought that would be the case. I had plenty of friends that was their goal, was
straight up
stardom. The next rung up, the next step up, and I think we would have bitten that hand had it even tried to feed us. And maybe we even did a couple times.
Could you have even sustained the kind of tours it would have taken to sell those records and those kind of numbers? And then the second question is, would it have still been Jimmy and the Teasers if you had to dial it back to sustain those kind of tours?
If we dial it back, it's dead, and my doctor would say no, he could not sustain that.
Right.
But see, that sounds like taking the fun. What we talked about, the idea of seriously
Who wants to live forever, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what I might have said back then, but you find out as you get older that you shouldn't. You feel weird about the bravado of saying that. You don't want to jinx yourself. But. Right. Yeah,
I'm sure this airplane's not going to crash.
Oh yeah, exactly. I just don't know that that's ever, when you love bands like the Replacements, and there is a romanticism to that kind of crash and burn. I just don't know that. I mean, we're just talking about all our merchandise and our flyers and stuff. We were a band built to kind of advertise ourselves, but to a certain level. And I don't think. I mean, we submitted some stuff to some labels and stuff, and one was interested. I think they're just looking at they probably same thing that can't be sustained. This this is too this these people. I do feel I'm very proud, of what we did, and I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure you sir should be very proud of everything you've done and continue.
Well, for the record, I know what you're talking about, like the sustainability factor, and also, most bands that have live shows that are that dynamic aren't going to have a record that's anywhere near that. And I would say, like, Sight Unseen, if they didn't know your band as well, they would probably just, well, that's conventional wisdom. It's it's a great band, but what kind of records are they?
Yeah,
but you guys, like you were saying earlier, actually are great at recording. So they're really fantastic records too. So I think it would have been fantastic. It is fantastic.
I think you're right. That it's difficult to put energy. It's difficult to record chaos.
Yeah.
But
it's not impossible.
You got to think a different way to kind of get across, lyric wise or dynamic wise, the sort of energy and chaos that might be involved, and that's a whole different thing than playing live. The stuff we did get down is I like that stuff too. I'm pretty proud of it. Although we always joke about I can't wait till Gear gets here. We're gonna listen back inside one song one. You always like to you'll sit and listen to your stuff, and I enjoy listening to your stuff with you. That's always a good time. It took me several years to be able to comfortably listen back. When I've initially done something, it's kind of hard for me to listen back. I'm still questioning, I guess, but I think everybody's a little different about that.
I only ever listen to music, I think my own music, at your place I ever have from beginning to end, because context matters. I like listening to it in that situation, is in your kitchen on your stereo amongst all those guitars and just all your jetsam of life.
Yeah,
I'm really proud to have my music like in that environment, and so like I don't listen to it in a car and stuff like that.
Right,
what I mean? It's like your life, you're living. That's why I would absolutely call what you do art, is because what you create is a reflection of how you live.
Yeah, and this environment is. I think you can tell a lot about me when you walk in here, and you can tell a lot about us when you walk in here. And upstairs, the flyers and the show posters and the and the instruments and all that stuff. And I think you can kind of walk through here and kind of know who I am. And you and I have spent how many nights sitting here talking till the sun came up about the things we're talking about now. I guess I hear what you're saying so much that if I was somewhere else and someone threw a record of art, I might be kind of curious as what the reaction would be. So
yeah,
coming from
If
somebody does that here, I'm turning that shit off.
Yeah,
man, don't play
There's
that.
a fine line.
In the end, and again, I don't want to say this like it's all over, but it's you and I that can sit here and talk about this, and here off the top of my head, we can put 40 people in on this conversation that we met during those days doing this stuff, being out there, playing their music, having fun, or communicating their art to people, or swallowing swords or whatever, that would join right in on this conversation and be proud to have been a part of everything that was going on back then. Because it was, I always say we were something. It was a time there where I think a lot of big stuff was going on and a lot of great things were being done, and we didn't really think about it. Let's see you play the drums with, a beer can tossed at you.
Man, it was great to sit and talk with Jimmy Brad today. I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's raining finally here in Western North Carolina. And I wouldn't be anywhere else in the world than sitting here soaking it all up with you. The organization that was mentioned earlier is the Tigerbeat Foundation for Musicians out of Atlanta, Georgia. You can find them at upbeatatl.org for the musician in your life in need. If you want to listen to Jimmy Brad's music, you can find Jimmy and the Teasers pretty much anywhere you stream your music for free. The next time I'll be wishing more people were here, it'll be Mother's Day. And I'll have a special conversation with someone who's always been like a mother to me. Musician, poet, songwriter, artist. Look at yourself in the mirror and stop crying. Ms. B.B. Kern. Support for this podcast comes from you, the listener, through my Patreon page, patreon.com/Drunken Prayer.
I'm Carl Castle, and this is The House of Morgan.
Ronnie Wood did finally pass away. Ronnie Wood of the Faces. He was a good boy. He passed away of just old age. Those are big crowds, and that's a lot of beer coming at you.